So I came across this book, but it's kind of an old one. It's like one of those old Disney books. But I thought about, well, Leilani, I thought about you because I know how much you like princesses, but it is a princess book. So anyway, we can try to read that one. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, lived a sweet and pretty girl named Cinderella. She made her home with her mean and old stepmother and her two stepsisters, and they made her do all the work in the house. Cinderella cooked and baked. She cleaned and scrubbed. She had no time left for parties and fun. But one day, an invitation came from the palace of the king. A great ball was to be given for the prince of the land, and every young girl in the kingdom was to be invited. How nice, thought Cinderella. I am invited too. But her mean stepsisters never thought of her. They thought of only of themselves. And of course, they had all sorts of jobs for Cinderella to do. Wash this slip, press this dress, curl my hair, find my fan. They both kept shouting as fast as they could speak. But I must get ready myself. I'm going too, said Cinderella. You'll, they hooted. The prince ball for you? Not so nice. They kept her busy all day long. She worked in the morning while her stepsisters slept. She worked in the afternoon while they bathed and dressed. And in the evening she had to help them put on the finishing touches of the ball. She had not 1 minute to think of herself. Soon the coach was ready at the door. The ugly stepsisters were powdered, pressed, and curled. But there stood Cinderella in her weekday rags. Why, Cinderella, said the stepsisters. You're not dressed for the ball. No, cried Cinderella. I guess I cannot go. Poor Cinderella sat weeping in the garden. Suddenly a little woman with a secret, kind face stood before her. It was her fairy godmother. Hurry, child, she said. You are going to the ball. Cinderella could hardly believe it. Her eyes, the fairy godmother, turned a fair fat pumpkin into a splendid coach. Next, her pet mice became horses, and her dog a fine footman. The barn horse was turned into a coachman. Oops. Oh, lost my place. There, my dear, said the fairy godmother. Now, into the coach with you, and off to the ball you'll go. But my dress, said Cinderella. Lovely, my dear, the fairy godmother began. And then she really looked at Cinderella's rags. Oh, my good heavens, she said. You cannot go. She waved her magic wand. Uh-oh. Sala, Gadula, Mentula, Ho-ho, Bibbidi-boppidi-boo. There stood Cinderella in the loveliest ball dress that ever was, and her feet were tiny glass slippers. Good little picture. cried Cinderella. "How can I ever thank you?" "Just have a wonderful time at the ball, my dear," said her fairy godmother. "But remember, this magic lasts only until midnight. At the stroke of midnight, the spell will be broken, and everything will be just as it was before." "I will remember," said Cinderella. "It's more than I ever dreamed of." Then into the magic coach she stepped in and whirled away to the ball. And such a ball, the king's palace! It was a blaze of lights. There was music and laughter, and every lady in the land was dressed in her beautiful best. But Cinderella was the loveliest of them all. The prince had never left her side. All evening long, they danced every dance. They had supper side by side, and happily they smiled into each other's eyes. But all at once, the clock began to strike midnight. Bong, bong, bong. "Oh," cried Cinderella, "I almost forgot." And without a word, away she ran out of the ball room. And down the palace stairs she lost one glass slipper. But she could not stop. Into the magic coach she stepped, and away it rolled. But as the clock stopped striking, the coach disappeared, and no one knew where she had gone. Oops. Next morning, the kingdom was filled with news. The Grand Duke was going from house to house with a small glass slipper in his hand, for the prince had said he would marry no one but the girl who could wear this tiny shoe. Every girl in the land had tried hard to put it on. The ugly stepsisters tried the hardest of all, but they could not once wear the slipper shoe. And where was Cinderella? Locked in her room, for the mean old stepmother was taking her to no chances of letting her try on the slipper. Poor Cinderella, it looked like as that the Grand Duke would surely pass her by. But her little friends, the mice, got to the stepmother's key, and they pushed open and under the door, Cinderella's door. So down the long stairs she came. As the Grand Duke was just about to leave, "Please," she cried, "Cinderella, please let me try on." And of course the slipper fitted, since it was just her very own. There was all the Duke needed. So his long search was done, and Cinderella became the prince's bride, and lived happily ever after. And the little pet mice lived in the palace, and all were very happy. All after Cinderella.